So welcome back to the 9th Cascadia Poetry Festival. My name is Ann Kober-Uendwosen. You can call me Ann Kober, and I am a member of the Cascadia 2050 committee working toward expanding the Cascadia Poetics Lab programming to the next generation. So up next is the Carbonation Press Showcase featuring Greg Bem, Rhea, Melina, Matt Trease, Theresa Whitehill, and Paul Nelson. Following the showcase will be a brief reading with Lauren Medley, Jim Dott, Katie Sarah Zale, and Brenda Cardenas. And Carbonation Press is a small press located on the lands of the Spokane tribe, started by librarian Greg Bem in late 2023. Yeah. Carbonation Press has published 15 poetry collections and 2 anthologies since its inception, including 24 self-portraits at 24 by Zach Charles, The Outside by Matt Trease, Day Song Miracle, past 62 by Paul Nelson, and the anthology Winter in America, again, co-edited by Paul Nelson, Katie Sarah Zale, and others. Copies of Carbonation Press's books are available for purchase at the book table in the back over there. Submissions for Winter in America, again's sequel anthology, Winter in America, still are open for prose, poetry, and art. Learn more about the submissions at the registration table or talk to Paul, Veronica, or Greg. And without further ado, here is the Carbonation Press Showcase. Thank you, guys.
How's it going, everybody? So do I need to actively use this and this?
Yes, that's
just talking to 2 mics at once. Yes. I love that for myself. My name's Greg, and I am excited to be here. Drove all the way out and back and out from Spokane due to the void of the Columbia Plateau and some logistical issues. So that was an exciting adventure to get back over here to the west side of the state and this coastal area of the Cascadia bioregion. And I've lived here for 13 years. Before I moved to Spokane, I lived actually within a few miles from this very location when I moved here with several artist friends from Philadelphia back in 2010. So this area and the neighborhoods just to the north of here and just to the northwest of here were stomping grounds of mine for quite a while. So it's always a pleasure to be encouraged and inspired to return, even though I very much prefer the sunnier side of the state over to the grays of this side of the state. But the grays are occasionally nice, so I'm appreciative of today's weather. A couple things before we get into the readings. Started, as was mentioned, started in fall of 2023. Right around the time I moved to Spokane, I was drastically reconsidering my understanding of community, especially as one entering a smaller urban environment, one of which I had very little connection and very little meaning already established, especially in comparison to the decade-plus time spent building relationships and friendships with artists in the Seattle area. And that led to thinking about what is publishing and what is my relationship with publishing, because it seemed like there were relationships that I had that transcended spaces like individual cities from earlier chapters of my life, especially the poetry community in Philadelphia, which has a bazillion publishing projects at any given time. So that was like, well, I guess I'm doing this. I'm gonna explore publishing in a new way. And so Carbonation Press emerged. And a couple things before I talk about the press itself. Earlier today, Brandon Letzinger was talking about this idea of space in the bioregion in Cascadia, and these elements or these structures, these geological formations, the mountains, as these offerings of definition, these symbolic visual apparatuses that give us more meaning with where we live and where we find ourselves and how we orient our daily life. And I found that really resonated with me. When I moved to Spokane, if anyone has been to Spokane, it is a river city. The Spokane River is an immensely powerful and immensely beautiful thing, and it's an immensely beautiful body and being, and it has been for a very, very long time, since time immemorial, to people that existed within that region, the inland, what we call the inland Northwest, before settler colonialism. And not only the bands of the Spokane, but also many migratory bands and migratory tribes that went to that part of the river for fish and sustenance for life during various seasons. And so there is this kind of transience that has existed in that space for a long period of time. And there's also a very beautiful symbolic relationship that has extended beyond the transience. And just like Seattle, in my opinion, Spokane is a very transient place. A lot of people are moving to that place. A lot of people are moving away from that place. Everyone has an opinion about Spokane, which is a very enjoyable thing to explore. And everyone has an amazing impression of that river and the world around that river and where that river comes from within the watershed and the Selkirk Mountains and the Cabinet Mountains, and how it eventually gets to the Columbia River and eventually finds its way over here on this side of the mountains, the Cascade Mountains. So thank you, Brandon, because I've been chewing on that idea of what gives us that orientation and that animation of place all morning. And I was also thinking about Spokane and the idea of entering this space as someone from outside. And I wanted to highlight another thing that I was chewing on, which was Lauren Medley's description of swimming in the ocean. And if anyone has been following me on Instagram, you know that I absolutely fucking love being in the Spokane River. It is like a conversation. It is like two bodies coalescing and becoming one every time I enter that river. And this summer, I think I had the privilege of having reduced work time, and so I was able to go in the water a lot. And that has become part of my narrative of my relationship to that space, and one that I do not take lightly or take for granted and try to build intentionality around. I say all of this because back there's a little sign that says Carbonation Press from Spokane, Washington. And Spokane is more than just a name. It technically, where we identify Spokane and the land of the Spokane people is on the map of this bioregion. And it's also just something, I think, to think about for all of us as we move forward with wherever we find ourselves and those relationships with those places that we find ourselves in, and how we might evolve that as we think about our practices and our praxis within those spaces, including small press praxis. So yes, Carbonation Press, by the end of this year, will have reached its 18th publication. 18 author publication. Author publication. Yes, we have a couple more books coming out this year by individual authors. We also are excited because we put out this book, Winter in America Again, which was an incredible feat. I'm sure everyone already knows about it, but if you don't, find a copy and talk to one of the people on the cover. And that was an amazing experience and the largest literary project I've ever worked on, so I'm grateful for that. We also put out another anthology that featured the work of students at a community high school in Spokane, which was a completely separate and equivalent, awe-inducing experience. We have 5 more anthologies that are currently in the works. Winter in America Still will come out next year. We have the first major Spokane poetry anthology, which I hope will become an annual or biannual tradition. And we received 80 submitters to that from Spokane. And that themed book will be centering home and liminality. So concepts and themes that have come up a lot over the last day and a half. And then also 3 exciting works on painting and Latine authors. So stay tuned if that sounds interesting. The press is very amorphous and very much connected to real relationship and real work. I do not profess myself as the expert in relationships or work, but I find that the work that is done on each and every one of the books that we have put out has been a gift for myself, and I try to hope that it's a gift for the people I work with, the authors and the other collaborators who are designing and creating work for the cover and the interior, and also our volunteers. And so this isn't on the printout, but I would like to actually invite one of the volunteers to speak for a couple minutes about their relationship with Carbonation Press and just how small press can exist to connect to relationship and what we're all doing as we think about our work in the form of published works. So Josh Massey is going to come up and talk for a couple minutes. He's visiting from Nelson, British Columbia. So this is truly an anti-national project.
I got to come up for a couple minutes and talk to a group of bioregionally connected writers. I'm coming down from just up here, Nelson, BC. I met Greg around here in Spokane at the Get Lit Literary Festival, and it was a serendipitous kind of meeting. We started talking shop, I guess you could say, as I'm a novelist and poet and nonfiction writer myself. He told me about his press. He mentioned a Canadian author who was on his slate, Catherine Owen, whose work is really amazing. She writes about Vancouver. I liked what he told me. I thought his concept was really neat. A new press is always something to celebrate if the work is excellent. And I ended up doing a little bit of copy editing. Copy editing being the... Someone answer that. Has anyone worked with a copy editor? I bet everyone has here. The copy editor goes over the manuscript for the minutia. It was a real pleasure to do that and be on the other side of it, because with my novels, I had a copy editor, and you know, it's the details, and a book can be won and lost, you know, on the macro scale of the concept and everything, but it could also be won and lost, I think, on the line by line care that the whole team takes, from the author right down to the copy editor. Yeah. So it was really cool to be on that side of it, to be able to read line by line. I've volunteered to do 4 of them so far, and it gives you that really neat perspective. It feels like a privilege because you're getting to read the work in advance, for one thing. You know it's not published yet, so it feels like an honor and a sneak peek, so to speak. And then to engage on that micro level with the language. I mark student papers all the time, so that's why he recruited me. He's like, oh, you mark papers. Let me just throw a few manuscripts in front of you too. So yeah, that's that, and it's been cool, and I'm not really sure what else to say other than thanks a lot for letting me talk for a couple minutes, and I wish your press much success moving forward.
All right, so I'm going to open up the readings for this, and we'll move forward. Thanks, Josh, for all that and everything you do. This poem series opens with a quote from the band Sunset Rubdown from their song Fable Killer. You think the road's a liberator, but think the road is just a river circling back home. Sigh, is that you? Could it really be your hands spread like a blanket across the land? Have you arrived? Or have you always been? And where was I? Where were we? Were we running? Or were we already here? Were we here? Or did we just arrive? Hush. The next layer of calm makes a scramble through the brush, takes away our knowing, keeps it tucked away across the winter for the next season of the fire, for the next season of the current, where the moons send their sigh, where the suns send their hush, footfalls on an old place, a damp one too. 1. I have found my home, a sliced image pulled from a face of a deep position, a wound, a heron's wing opening against the lit ray dipping from the pine. 2. I have found this pile of refuse, brush, thinned like spindled thread, the quirk it makes my lungs expand. The air is dry, the leavening of memory in a place seen for the first time. It is hollow, this exact space next to the river, a pinch of guilt. I sit beyond, water, my fins, small shields, and the heat. 3. Given in to a lover's whims, that breath, current in the breeze, that which freezes, frozen, that which knows of water's hush. 4. Soft touch on a balance of palms, smooth stone crushes balance, the mimicry of how the river falls upon each corner of its bowl, lips fragmented and cracked, and how in shade it all looks pocked. My chest expands, the breasts are breath. Like needles, my toes press forward. The body's energies are a body's energy. 5. The greetings are loud when the lingering is spurred, and the ripples are babbles, fumbling across a smooth dip in endless restoration, a rest from the volcanically violent. Here it has happened, and this glance, long and plentiful, a translucent ribbon, a dusty mouth. And 6. Elegiac, when I saw the body, hollow, I said, hush, what of it? And then the sickly, sweet memories of something that could be forgotten. I know. The rubric, golden in the black of night. They traced the ancient memory. Dirt boundary. It did matter. It did. Because I am a Dadaist at heart, we will have first up Theresa Whitehill. Theresa worked with me on this amazing book, Dancing with La Muerta, and this book of poetry is available. All of the books that readers are going to be reading from today are available, but I will just say it was a pleasure, and I'm excited to hear it in person for the first time today, which is exciting for me, selfish, I know. But let me introduce Theresa. Theresa, a Californian-born poet and letterpress artist, lives in Mendocino County, just below the southern border of Cascadia in Ukiah, California. Her recent publications include Dancing with La Muerta and Heavy Lifting, also available for sale here today, from 2023 from Moving Parts Press. She studied with William Everson at UC Santa Cruz in the late 70s and in the Mills College Book Art program in the early 80s. Her poetry and letterpress broadsides are in international fine press collections, including the Bainbridge Island Museum of Art, about as local as it gets, the Getty Center, the San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York Public Libraries, the Bancroft Library at UC Berkeley, and the British Museum. She has been involved with Cascadia Poetics Lab since the pandemic year, working as associate editor and designer of Cascadia Zen Volume 1. Everyone welcome Theresa Whitehill.
Thank you, Greg. I want to dedicate my reading tonight to my local community in California, and especially for their annual Dia de los Muertos event, where I first danced with La Muerta in 2023. And I'll start with a little quip from a poet friend of mine, Bill Brad from Mendocino County, where he says, "The nature of the journey makes us unfit for arrival." Although this is not a war. Although this is not a war, this must be like what it is to lose someone during a war, when the killing and dying goes on and on around us, and surviving becomes a milky glass that shakes on the nightstand because of no train. We are to imagine that we ourselves are systems of energy that travel about with an invisible raiment shaped much like an umbrella or a bell jar around our shoulders, and that raiment is made up of pulsating effusions of our human light, condensed into a miniature and self-contained cloud of distortions that falls and continues to fall while our bodies emit and continue to emit this invisible and miraculous substance that we can neither feel nor see or know to watch or entirely eliminate or trouble ourselves. This umbrella of self that is invisible and insensible, we are to imagine that it travels with us and that we must reckon with it, account for it, using a tape measure if necessary. Because for some unknown reason and for an unknown length of time, it must not cross the path of our neighbor's umbrella of shining self. Or we might die or inflict death or sicken or trouble ourselves too soon. And it is already too late. We cannot simply stand in a closet with our package of self held closely about us, waiting for it to be safe. We do not have the luxury of standing still, or of sealing the doors and windows and waiting patiently for the oxygen to run down. Bicyclists, all of us, statisticians, grocery clerks, anomalies, each has an ever-expanding cloud of particulars sacred to their bloodline that must be kept contained and must also be kept in circulation, or we will all wither away. And it is already too late. We must feel the frustration of the untouched. We must face each other with a strip of cloth across our mouths and over our histories. And in the middle of it all, while it is late and early, we must go on waking, keening, finding that lost place that has become an enormous bell jar, an enormous umbrella on the edge of all things. Looking out past the Crab Nebula, over the shoulder of Orion, past the place where the sun used to rise. And there it is. Wildflowers are blooming. Bird song has returned to its normal fluency. The air has cleared, or did for a while, until the world had finished pausing and began running downhill again, late, inevitable, miraculous. Brother Prayer. He came into the room hesitant, just as I had a few hours earlier, a little fearful of looking over at her, of looking over at the bed where she lay. What would death look like dressed up as his sister? A prayer is worthwhile, and a prayer is a friend. And I pray for my brother. Morphine tree. So my sister is up in the morphine tree. We are all standing around looking up at her, trying to talk her down for different reasons. I am afraid she's going to jump. The doctors want to cut the tree down to make space in the room so she can get up and leave. My sister is up in the morphine tree. She cannot get down. I wonder why none of us have offered to go up after her. I would be the most likely candidate. I am the one who merges with others, who is capable of sensing their most secret desires. I wonder whether chameleons, when they become old, does it take longer for them to change colors and longer to change back? What if they were to get stuck? But my sister is up in the morphine tree. She will not come down. Why should she? The tree is beautiful. If you look closely, you see it is actually made up of thousands and thousands of particolored poppy blossoms woven into immense translucent strands. If you put your ear to the bark, you hear the whispering of the dreamers as they flirt with death and with my sister. The branches are decorated with colorful knotted rags so that the tree shimmers in the breeze. I used to sit under this tree with my sister and drink wine. I didn't realize it was a morphine tree. I thought it was just a peaceful place to sit. We would delight in telling each other our cynical jokes about the world and appraise each other with infinite sisterly tenderness. My sister is stuck in the morphine tree. She cannot get down unless we help her. I am combing her sweaty hair out gently, using a pick to tease the snarls apart. I want to smooth out those wrinkles that keep developing between her eyes as she stares around the room with engorged pupils. Why are the horses in this place so perfect and so small? They're barely the size of rabbits. And girls. There are girls being kept somewhere and killed. She looks at me with startled eyes as she says these things, and then she winks and smiles at me when she sees me gazing at her intently. That look of infinite tenderness comes over her face. She murmurs something I cannot hear. When I stand up, I see she has finally been able to let herself go. And my final poem is called Sleeping with the Eyes Half Open. And it begins with a quote from the Portuguese poet Eugenio de Andrade. É lugar ao sul, lugar onde o cal amotinado desfia o olhar, onde viviste, onde às vezes no sonho vives ainda. It's a place in the south, a place where whiteness gone wild stares you in the eye, where you lived, where sometimes in sleep you are living still, sleeping with the eyes half open, your breath in your mouth complete, my lips seeking yours, even in those empty places beside me. And with what courage I lift your head to the light, or what's left of your head, your tongue gone wild, your sex, the glint in your eyes when you would sleep with them half open. My love, we lived. We lived for over 3 decades in bedrooms carefully arranged for your night's carnival, placing only images within view of the bed that were almost transparent, that were themselves dreaming, that had a sense of improbable grace and reassurance, so as not to enter into your dreams and wreak havoc. I will never forget our first night together, there in the place above the print shop by the ocean. I woke in the morning and thought you had died. I had never slept with a man who slept with his eyes half open. With what courage I turn your head to the light, only to look down and see my own hand holding tenderly my own puzzled and alternate hand. Or the water that has so recently paid its fond hot caress over my scalp, slithering away to the drain. And when we came to dress you for your death, in that small room where we had lived so well and so fitfully, I had forgotten to close your eyes the night before. So accustomed I was to your existence between the worlds. And I realized the great respect shown by this gesture of closing the eyes of the dead. At the same moment, I realized it was no longer possible. I had forgotten. When the men from the mortuary arrived just after dawn, there you were, gazing impertinently out at the gray morning.
Thank you, Theresa. I haven't taken the workshop with the next reader, the workshop about the genre, the literary genre that is the introduction of the reader. But if you want to do a great introduction, stay tuned for his upcoming workshops because he does these better than anyone else. Instead, I'm going to invite up Matt Trease, who is the author of The Outside. Matt Trease is an artist, poet, IT analyst, and astrologer living in South Seattle, Washington, where he serves on the board of the Cascadia Poetics Lab and co-curates the Margin Shift reading series. His poems have recently appeared in Small Portions, Wordlet Zine, Phoebe, Fact Simile, Hotel America, Juked, and in the anthology 56 Days of August, Postcard Poems. He is the author of the chapbook Later Heaven, Production Cycles from Busy Little One-Way Designs in 2013. Welcome, Matt Trease.
Okay, so the germ of this book kind of started from a kayaking trip down on the Duwamish River of the Duwamish Gardens Restoration Project, and we went over the Northwind Weir, and as I was listening to the tour guide kind of tell the story of Southwind and the tale of kind of overturning the weir, it opened up something for me about being disconnected from place, but also having grown up in in the South in a very kind of fundamentalist religious environment in which we were taught to dominate the natural world, and also to not pay attention to where we come from. In fact, if you had my family talk about where they came from, my dad would talk about, oh, he's from Ohio. And there's just no sense of an ongoing history, and so there's that idea that we're obviously not from Ohio ultimately, but there's no stories handed down, nothing. So it kind of overcame me a bit. So I'm going to read a couple of pieces from this book that kind of illustrate a little bit of that story. The first part's going to come from the day song, which is a ritual, and Paul will be talking about this as well, or reading from his day song book. But it's trying to write spontaneously as much as you can in within a day as a kind of test of the self, and it's drawn from Bernadette Mayer and Midwinter Day. So I'm going to read a short portion from that and then skip over to this long poem where I was using a divination strategy of bibliomancy to try to listen to the Duwamish River. Having been living along the banks of it for a little over a year at that point, you become a part of the place, and so as a part of the place, you can. It's within you. The water that you take in comes from the sources, and so these ways of listening in to things that might seem like they're chance, but they become something else. And so I just gathered together a bunch of material and kind of went through it, letting that part of me, the inside of me, listen to the outside of me, which is the river. So I'll start off with this portion from In the Belly, which is the day song, Imbolc day song. 10:51 a.m. I did not begin with an end in mind. I am turning this mind wheel of words like a mantra. Sa, ta, na, ma. Birth, life, death, rebirth, thought flowing like a stream to the rhythm, its energy. There is a local story the Duwamish tell of South Wind, whose people were starved by North Wind, who dammed the Duwamish River with an ice weir, trapping the salmon. South Wind, a baby at the time, was raised by the North Wind people, knew nothing of the death of his people until one day, as a young man, he met his grandmother, who told him all about what happened. Together they flooded the river valley with tears and rainwater and felled trees, and they broke the weir and chased off the North Wind. A couple years back, I steered a kayak over the stone remnants believed to be of that damned weir and felt the tears of South Wind and his grandmother that broke the spell of ice and separation. In a moment, I felt that wheel turning me, releasing the grief of over my own people, still a mystery to me from centuries of migrations, of imperial assimilation, erased by the cold wind of empire and science and the myriad attempts to dam up the natural world with standardized time, supply chains, and rows and rows and rows of repeatable little boxes we stuff our brains and bodies into. And now I'll skip ahead to a portion of River of the Inside. What does it mean to be without a history, murmuring sound, something faintly like water? The main problem is legacy contamination. What's left from the bad old days will not spare you the embarrassment, revealing who got the words to come together. Sometimes things come back to bite us. This nocturnal body, the colonial state stripped of all its skin, that upper spirit diverted through interior pipes to a new treatment. But maybe if they didn't treat us like monsters, we wouldn't be monsters lodged in a normal body and living a reasonable existence the baptized drown naked in. You may be quite sure you know when you're coming together, merging cells of a different here below. I don't know what I'd do turned into matter. Too many lost names, too many rules to extend this extended trip. I'd trip on the dirt in the yard. Better find a bearing even under unusual methods of grafting the gaps in previous mappings, somewhere along the way descriptions of homes, foods, and customs. These dreams of water make the source as through glass, through trees, through interweaving a tribe which has been recognized in one of these manners. It all stands still, may not be out of the picture. The clock runs countless everyday interactions. You can't seem to hold a transient assortment of plants will propagate by division, just another stop frame in consciousness. Take away this. Columbus has a punctum ensemble of my body's routes, little orphans, beaten dogs, the dead who can see. It is always to see more than one sees. This autobiography, expansive sensations, keeps you safe, immaterial but part trap, held intense fire, flaming as long as inflammation lasts. Abiding, you may be lost. You'll find every night its own phenomenal expression. I can't explain the broad valley now occupied by the huge city speeding in coolness, already lost beside the hole in the sphere. Oh, I feel here's ritual carries people through touch and sound, who absorbs it all, calling crises the easy information. Mountains and waters have been becoming what we once knew and have forgotten. The voice that is so much coming through every hour. How do we discover where we actually live? In the basement, as the fern bent to the window, let us bring the application still nearer. Home, coming through the river we look deeply into. Not a single desirable attribute won't give you back the moments you miss. All colorine matter down to a bore ash bit staff purity of air. A child humming the woods, chirpsies, cries to Singaloo, sweet cheerio, road coming for to carry me home ain't no one. Oh, a band of their Fleetwoods don't stop thinking about tomorrow, a wild field behind it, wanted to be a cultivated wilderness, a blood clot I speak in other interfaces, forming a logic, all product, a process steering us away from the things that shine. You and I both know I have thee not, and yet I see thee still too heavy to hold, to keep the scene that old man beats back. The question is too much, whether attached or unattached to the gold watch, to ask not in words and form, learned by rote, a two-edged weapon coming out of my mouth to destroy the promises to the Duwamish, the turning point between innocence and commercial impulses, to be found elsewhere, burned all, to keep just say what it is that you want. A very ancient animal you can talk to in your king-sized river route, as even under high drifts, those fierce wind-grappled cuts go without river delta and tidal estuaries, snaking south, the rough trail connecting the ocean, your love prolonged. Do you want to go to the river? I know this spot. So deep and green, with 15 longhouses found, a drawn sword between them, a Fred Meyer, a buffet, apartment parking, fatal confusion, dropping marked chips of wood into the stream which flows free treasure through the integrity of the state, lacking in a plant, may not be bred, receiving what you said, these old poetic dimensions of the image nation, the old religion you lay upon my pillow must survive. I want to hear you scream an esoteric mystery school undertaking. The practice of living in place won't be outside in becoming, and so it goes.
Thank you, Matt. Yet another reader I had not heard read their work in person until this time. I don't think so. Matt, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was the first time. Maybe bits and pieces. Yeah. Next up, we have Paul Nelson, who is the author of many things. But today, we're going to be talking about Day Song Miracle at 62. The Day Song, Paul will tell you all about it, but before he does, I just want to say thank you, Paul, for introducing me to this space and this community. And if anybody didn't know this already, Paul was my first poet friend when I moved to Seattle. So, thank you, brother. Founder of the Cascadia Poetics Lab and the Cascadia Poetry Festival, Paul Nelson was a professional broadcaster from 1980 to 2006 and researched, hosted, and produced over 450 original public affairs radio programs and over 300 additional interviews since then. On-air host, news anchor, and public affairs coordinator in Chicago, Seattle, Baltimore, and other towns, he's a poet who has given presentations or readings in Brussels, London, China, Los Angeles, and other places while being very active since 1994 in the Puget Sound literary community. He writes an American sentence every day, yeah, still, and lives with his wife Bhakti Watts and youngest child Ella Roque in Seattle's Rainier Beach neighborhood, right over there in the Cedar River watershed in the Cascadia bioregion. I feel like I'm channeling some talking heads right now. Which, if anyone ever saw Four Horsemen perform, knows what I'm talking about. He serves as the literary executor for Sam Hamill, and in late 2022 released a chapbook, The Day Song of Casa del Colibri, and in spring 2023 released a chapbook entitled Another Day Song, 1980. And he has a bunch of day songs forthcoming. Everyone welcome Paul.
I'm really honored you're here. Thanks for coming to my neighborhood that Bhakti and I have lived in for 8 years. I'm grateful to be a carbonation poet, and I'm in awe of all that Greg Bem does, and the heart with which he does it, and the community that is left in the wake of all that activity. So thank you, Greg Bem. Lauren Grosskopf took a picture of me that Roberta Hoffman then created a painting of, and it is a sort of inspired by a painting that Alfredo Araguin did of Tess Gallagher, which I was reminded of when I visited Tess again a couple of months ago. So all credit to Tess and Alfredo. And this is the third of 4 day songs I've completed. This one, Day Song Miracle, past 62. The Day Song Ritual was designed for workshop participants in the online Zoom courses I've been conducting since the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown. They're currently run under the names Poetics as Cosmology and Life as Rehearsal for the Poem. The Day Song comes mainly out of projects by Bernadette Mayer, Midwinter Day, and the Canto Diurno of the recently deceased Pierre Joris. The Day Song exercise is only possible writing projectively, and a test of a poet's ability to write in the method Charles Olson in part described as a use of speech at its least careless and least logical. It also incorporates a notion that the late BC poet Barry McKinnon ascribed to William Carlos Williams, that being each poem you write should be a summary of your life to that point. Having 3 longtime friends die at the age of 62, within a year, 2022-2023, and writing the Day Song 2 weeks before I was to turn 62 was part of the energy that propelled this poem. I'll read part of it, Day Song Miracle, past 62, 5:26 a.m. Venus moves a little higher in the pre-dawn sky and the Day Song begins. There's $138.60 in checking, and the parade of mufflerless cars begins. Another August has died, and September turns into a body count. She who can survive August, can survive stage 4 cancer, can survive the needs of the Anthropocene, deserves our, if not veneration, at least humble respect. So with spell check on and personal universe cards deployed and 56 days worth of postcards standing by, the Day Song seeks to put noospheric vision to work in the Buddha field, mining a collective unconscious to reveal what yoga and spiritual ecology and zazen and Latihan Kejiwan have so far hidden. May the Bodhidharma touch this keyboard and guide each emerging syllable. Festoon this fledgling September consciousness and the comets underneath. Poem as Day Song is exploration of the cosmos from the south side of the Ribbon Lakes, Casa del Colibri. Miracles disappear with Buddhas, but do not overwhelm Buddhas, says Dogen, and the miracle of projective verse, the miracle of the practice of outside, the miracle of organic form, the miracle of impersonal verse arise just as does September chicory awaiting the ancient rain, as do September rose hips fattening on the branch, and the daughters, the successful endoscopy, and all the assorted and minor miracles, cedar incense, ground altars, clean air, golden beats, sobriety in an age almost demands drunkenness. And all I have is coffee and syllables, line breaks and postcards. Friends dead at 62, with me a fortnight short of that apparently ignominious age. I met John in 4th grade, me an expert on state capitals due to the puzzle in Miss Sauber's first and second grade classroom, where we were properly prepared to skip third grade. What's the capital of Alaska? Juneau. The pun John heard. He heard this pun once and reran it all through Miss McMahon's class. And he was a Sox fan. The Sox fans that summer of '69, a fifth place year, a year of Don Gutteridge and Luis Aparicio, of Buddy Bradford and Joel Horlin, and Tommy John, before the famous surgery bears his name, of Bobby Knopp and Bob Locker, Bill Melton and Tommy McCraw, and knuckleballer Wilbur Wood. Who'd have any idea 53 years later, John would be having hallucinations of being a hockey player at a Trump rally in the hospital with shit in his lungs, fighting esophageal cancer. And Apostolos Christovalos, Paul, in U.S. American, studying his ass off to be a valedictorian, only to abandon ROTC for a reefer at Lane Tech and maintain that a Greek immigrant could sing the Mississippi blues. Drachma on the party bus, CTA's Addison West 152 to Pueblo. Who'd knew he'd marry someone whose limbs would start to drop off, and how this Asimov-like intelligence would make ends meet through eating and cooling. And last Jim, who'd Facebook post his last days about to live and die in LA, just to live in the burbs and die in bed. There has to be more than this, she'd say. And she'd be right. There are myriad miracles, according to Dogen. The miracles of renouncing resentment as the cancer closes in. The miracle of intimate language, whether postcards or during a now welcomed Reiki treatment. Miracles of clean air and September sunrises, rabbit leaps and Japanese water filter systems, of shikantaza and fair trade coffee and matcha and Susan's banana bread. Of noospheric messages to a stage 4 mother who gives up smoking at 85 and is not happy about it. The miracles of walking mountains and floating bridges and shadow hermitage retreats in mountains named after mountains in Greece, but with less ouzo. The miracle of day singing and ceremonial cedar incense and being the one who must carry memories because heaven favors the last survivor. It is you who must carry that Thursday night in Chicago, April 2, 1981 memory of Al Di Meola, Paco de Lucia, and John McLaughlin, a live auditorium theater accompanying the two guitarists at your side that night to breathe the miracle of April lakefront air in the wake of one last Mediterranean Sundance. Y Rio Ancho, could be Cuba or Colombia, but in Paco's hands, a gypsy flamenco finger burn in the key of E minor, then A minor, D, G, C, and B7. Insurance, a much better capitalist bet than guitar, for a life in Park Ridge and daughters who disowned him and to whom he would give nothing but the capital of Alaska. Juneau. Then I had breakfast at 6:50. Stopped writing at 6:41, started writing at 7:13. Back here in the present, in the daylight of the day song, in the now and here, in the howling autonomy of August, in guitar constellations, ground altars, in the recent dust of the intimate language of poetry, postcards, and the science of the noosphere, and the crying, patient earth of whom we are, and with whose blessings we crack through whatever ancestral agreements ain't filling the bill no more. Poverty consciousness and intimacy cluelessness. She who hears all cries surely hears the scream of the Anthropocene and those who drop dead to maintain its greasy ways and automobile fetishizing and speed addictions. Speed past the ground altar. Miss the locust trees, whose sacred stand in Chinook Beach Park withstood the assassination attempt of well-meaning ecologists who, even though the locusts were still and silent, still botched the job. Locusts who had little say in being brought to Cascadia, to those who loved her hardwood and blossoms, but maybe not her thorns and roots, her relentlessness and sheer instinct for surviving north wet winters and legendary gloom. You find the tune for ground altar construction. Bring your stool and cedar incense or sandalwood, maybe festoon with a few asters or lavender sprigs, and learn to sing the tune the song sparrow sings, or the bush tits who groove to the wave-lap stunned apprentice pilgrim learning by doing again. Watching their short performance would be cut short if a cell phone were to be deployed. This scene for your consciousness and your memory, and for the great-grandchildren, if any, who'd look back at all this projective blathering for the all-evasive bloodline clues only a day song could sing. Bring it back to August and the geese and the Cascadian moose and the organic expeller pressed canola oil, heart and 3% of DV fat, but without artificial ingredients like similes. I wrote to the meat grinder / emergent star. Yes, it's intimate language as Dogen knew, and yes, it's poets as cosmonauts, hunting under rocks to find the right cosmology we knew was around here somewhere. And yes, August is 56 days long and a paean to form's revelation as life is, and waiting for someone, thing, to die as we all are. Maybe poverty consciousness or the long-awaited arrival of colorlessness, as Kamo no Chome was trying to tell me from 13th century Japan. That Sangai is more than a deer, more than counting steps, is 3 worlds, and we in the first live in the first of desire, but with a taste of projection, or zazen, or latihan, or yoga, or Odin, or a touch of dolphin skull could begin to see the colorlessness at the edges of things, or even the world without color, which still would have its blueberry granola and September asters, still have ground altars and fat rose hips to feed rabbits, still have outside companions and bioregions, mountain salal and September ritual blackberries that are, sorry Sam, yes, red and black and sweet and bitter, just like a day song. And September Friday morning, marina power tools, crow feathers and specular reflection, spinal adjustments and magnesium lotion, Sasquatch sightings, or at least redneck Sasquatch t-shirts, and all the other myriad miracles summer and September just give us a whiff of. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Now that everyone knows what a day song is, who wants to go out and write one? All right, maybe next year there can be a day song symposium. You too can write a day song. Next up, we have Rhea Melina, who's the author of Found Confetti, and to introduce Rhea is Brass Wax.
Hello, folks. As Greg said, I am Brass Wax on stage and online, and I'm just here briefly to tell you that I'm a lot less curious about the people who are kind of a big deal than I am about those who, if more were right with the world, probably would be. Or might just yet be. Rhea Melina is one of those people. Her work spans from heart-hammering confessionals to surprise, sidewinding hooks that you don't see coming and make you laugh when they land. The Saturnian moon of Seattle verse understands that language isn't poetry unless it's at least also music. From the rigidly rhythmic to the avant cosmic horizon, music is what lifts language into poetry, which is why you're so fortunate to hear it now, live, together. Are you ready? Yes. My palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. Here's Rhea Melina with some Found Confetti.
Thank you, Brass Wax. I highly recommend Brass Wax as a friend and an editor. So This book was really an honor and a privilege to make with Greg. It's called Found Confetti, and it came out last year. If it begins to feel disingenuous to read things that are over a year old, I might stop and do something new, but I'm going to try to take you back to a year ago or even before that when I was putting this together. And since this has already been a lot, can everyone take a moment to just take a breath with me? Or 3. I'm going to go back in time a little bit. Right. You're so conditioned to war that when I say peace, you say don't take sides. Okay. Okay, well, don't wait for my death to bring me a big bouquet, because beating hearts deserve romance, every last one of them. And pulling down God is easy. It's a sore throat outside, and I wouldn't eat with that mouth. It's been fingering up the truth, and God only knows where that's been, just tracing the rim of our puzzle pieces with its tongue. Transparent gods, they blur into each other, paint their sex into the mountains. I could never fake a sunset to you, love. There's no hiding the evidence of slaughtering the day. Jesus, what year is it? Am I aging already? I have lost count of the wrinkle ridges. This supernova is burning herself blind and careless. Just look busy. Just look busy. It's also easy when your head's been taken as compensation for secrets held under the water for far too long. We can all read the text within the bubbles. We just press the phones to our chests now. This heartless nation marches for you and you. This heartless nation marches. We pranced into stagnation and signed a treaty to answer the enemy's burning questions. They took it as a side-winded apology for some misunderstanding that may or may not have ever happened. Now I just pray we can entertain the gamblers long enough for my children to have health insurance. It makes a difference when you're down. Under occupation, homes and hearts catch fire in long cancerous days until the occupation puts you out like a cigarette into some goopy ashtray neighborhood and tells you it's all yours. All you have to do is sign here and the wars will end. The murders will stop. All you have to do is surrender. Some of us deserve to forget, apparently, and some of us deserve to hold grudges, huh? See through all the demographics. This whole place is no man's land, I mutter to myself, tipping my hat to the cigarette factories along the horizon. There used to be cats everywhere here, stray cats. Now I may get the meds I need, though. And there's a parking garage and a casino in the field I used to play in. We're given our share from theirs, and they don't call this occupation. They occupy our place and set aside a wasteland of our own for us to live in. We reached enlightenment and trusted strangers, so our time to shine ran out just like that with our resistance. Apparently, I should be moving on from under this sun discussing war with you. But there are claws digging into me. Deer in the city, my mother used to take me here to graze. Now every time I leave my 15-square-foot marsh, I've gone too far. I lick salt from the pavement and run from cars. Every day I contend with the martyr inside. I try to stuff her down. I button her in. Sometimes I hide under the bridge where there are bonfires and other half-panicked animals trying to nourish shrunken stomachs. We give each other quick, shifty-eyed looks instead of talking now, and believe me, if there's anything I hate, it's the usual bullshit. All in all, I advise you not to go into the Empire without a hat. There's a big leak outside there, and they've been having trouble with their gutters. Thank you. So I'm going to shift. Ooh, talking words, sounds. Thank you. I like that. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, if I can find the page. Okay. All right. When I was young, I wanted to get noticed. I would pour my heart out to strangers and spill my art all over the streets and scream on stage, paint in alleys like I owned them, strut down aisles of stores, modeling on that laminate runway, my no fucks to give. And I got noticed everywhere I went. I got all the attention I could ask for and more until I was on the run. And in order to survive, I stuffed myself deep inside my pockets. I ran and hid and ran and hid and ducked and buried and knelt and dug. My fingernails will never come clean nor grow right. I'm alone most of the time, but I feel like I'm always being watched. I got noticed like a flame in the night. I got seen like a moving target in broad daylight, and 24/7 I was unsafe, I was unsafe, I don't want to complain. See, I've been righteously trained to focus on gratitude. Like if I tell you all my sob story, a great guilt will wash over all of us, as if my shame will become your shame, as if my disease will spread and it will be all my fault, as always. Just be happy you made it out alive. Just be happy you made it out alive. People say that to me. But to what degree is it healthy to act as though my survival is not a total fucking miracle? Raped and left for dead again. I've been hiding like I don't want him to know. I woke up the next morning and drank my coffee as usual. I've since been hiding in the grind, working 9 to 5 and dumbing down my energy so they won't see me. I've been hiding, grinding coffee the night before and barely sleeping, chock full of anxiety but smiling and knocking one back, but I don't let my guard down. Trying to stay safe. Trauma got me in a cage and I don't know what happened. Because yesterday, I just woke up and wanted again to be noticed, to be seen, to be acknowledged for who I am. A fucking miracle. Not because I survived, but because sometimes I still feel alive. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm glowing. You guys got me all like nervier. This stage reminds me of a play I was in when I was 6. I was a bird. I had lots of feathers. Hold on. Wait a minute. You guys, oh, I know. I can smell the war coming. Can you smell it? Yes, it's too many days uninterrupted with rubber burning in my nostrils and exhaust fuming on my cheeks. I try to brush it off. It doesn't go away. I cough and it tastes like plastic. No matter what I do or say, I fear I'm fake and floating, not like an angel or a fairy flying in a dream, but like a mannequin with no feet, no seams, no humanity. The flags keep getting bigger. The speech is more simple. I know what's next, and so do the hairs on the back of my neck. If you're privileged, you either run to the sidelines or flee past the border. And if you're like me, you still have to make some ends meet. Meet where? Meet who? For how long? We don't really ask. We indulge in simple pleasures to escape the anxiety and mask despair with rebellion. Apparently, simply living in truth, in love, in color has become an act of bravery. All right. 2 more? You good? 2?
1, 2, whatever you want.
Okay. All right. Thanks. All right. Okay. I think I know what I'm doing here. I think I'm just going to do the title poem to the book now. And I have some new stuff I'll read at the after party. I'll do something for the monopoem if you guys are around for that. Figure that out at that time. This book was a lot of years of poems put together. Most of them were written within the last 2 years, but some of them were older too. And then when I was kind of like compiling it at the very end, I finished this poem, and I think that really it kind of sums up a lot of what I was doing in this project, which is trying to make the most of these things we've been given. And they're not all good. We don't really understand exactly why we were born at this time with all these challenges we have, but I feel like we're doing the best we can. And I try to have a good time anyway, so that's what this is about. It's called Found Confetti. I found confetti in the rubble, in my infected wounds, in myself. It's beautiful. with the fallen having imprinted neon streaks over gray ash. I took a picture, and for a moment I was solemn. I slithered out, tail after tooth, sharpened by the friction, and continued to take notes of all the contrasts around me, looking like a party, on the broken windshield, on the sticky sidewalk, on the trash-lined beach. Looks like a party, in the ruins of castles, in the fallout of capitalism, as dandelions reseed between stones, and laughter springs up out of me, a geyser freed through cracks of uncertainty. I have become so accustomed to this revelation. Let me be the foxglove in the clear cut, shamelessly colorful and in bloom so long. I am the morel in the fire damage, the sparkler washed up on the beach, never lit. In a sea of plastic, I present to you art. Salty, poisonous, weathered, luxurious. If you stare long enough, the magic eye reveals itself, a water knock, a kelpie, a will-o'-the-wisp still luring you toward the light. Sagagal, she who watches, I am everywhere, I go nowhere. Rake my beaches, clean me up, try to edit me, dance with me, party. Wait, let me check my calendar. Is today the day I'm supposed to come out again, or remind you that your language is make-believe, or is rent due, or are these jeans not cool anymore, or do I smell like I'm in a healthy mental state? You tell me. I don't want to contribute to this hell on earth. I just want to feel that heaven is worth the work of all this responsibility. I think I'll make up a new holiday. It's called Today, and it's good enough. Whatever I honor is worth it. Whatever I forget is just fine forgotten. I celebrate breathing. Throw whatever confetti I can find. It's dried flower petals, pine, and cigarette butts. It's sea glass from wine bottles. It's plastic googly eyes and used Disney Band-Aids. It's crumpled receipts and highlighted recipes. It's Post-it notes and business cards I'll never read again. This isn't clutter, though it might be trash. It's signs of life. I'll take them out, throw them around, cast spells to heal myself from the doubt. I don't know if it's a lost cause, and I don't have to find it to fight for it. Let your own landmarks radicalize you. Find your cringe and run with it. I found some more confetti in the gutter. Let's party.
Yes. Our final reader for this showcase is Zach Charles, the author of 24 Self-Portraits at 24. In Bioregional Basics, 22 Ways to Come Home, David McCloskey writes about several ways, 22 to be exact, to live with the rhythms of the planet, to live effectively as the small part of a much larger organism that we as Homo sapien are. These manners of living emerge from many places, simply sitting and listening to the land and the water, from deep study of the land and the water, and from certain human traditions, often from indigenous peoples around the world. In the 21st Way, he consolidates this down to 6 practices of the real work of our time. 1, restore integrity of ecosystems. 2, rebuild infrastructure along ecological and community-based lines. 3, revitalize communities. 4, regenerate ties of local regional economies. 5, grow a restorative life, place, politics. And 6, celebrate the place and build a new grounded culture. Zachary Brett Charles, he sees art and especially poetry as a powerful and peaceful medium through which to change the human imagination. They feel their role as a member of Cascadia 2050 is an opportunity to use art and poetry to help their friends, peers, and fellow Cascadians move toward living their lives in a manner consistent with the rhythms of the planet. They volunteer at the Cascadia Poetry Lab as a member of the Cascadia 2050 Youth Committee, Poetry Postcard, Best Project Board, the Podcast Committee, and wherever else is helpful at the moment. Everyone welcome Zach Charles.
Thank you, everybody. This book is a little bit of prose and a little bit of poetry, and I don't usually read the prose, so I thought I would today. The prose is, well, the construction of the book, the poems are self-portraits, as you heard in the title. That's me standing between these 2 mirrors, which are the prose letters to either grandfather. And I'll read from the letter to my maternal grandfather, as well as some of the poems. Dear Grandpa G, let me begin again. I am writing rushed for the sake of this title. The sun travels a lower arc in the sky and another new moon encroaches. When it has filled itself, autumn will have arrived, my 25th and my 100th season. But right now the sun is the reddest it will ever be, flattened into a fragment of the horizon, something only the changing of my small perspective reveals. Then it vanishes completely, leaving its stain on the sky the moon will clean. I cannot help the feeling I am lucid dreaming as that color wheel fades to deep over the ledge of the Western Ocean, that somehow I do not have enough size to exist. You were a large man, expanded like many things are by childhood in the images I keep of you, framed and remembered. Perhaps your memory of me is eroded by decomposition. I worry this is the case for my grandmothers, both buried as you were, though before you, before I knew enough to ask. It will not help that my letters to you have been confused into journal entries and spread out by all the time it takes to flip a page and keep writing, all the time it takes for light to bounce between mirrors. You may have gathered, but the purpose of these self-portraits is not just to clarify your mental image of me, but for my own sake. One portrait for each year up to this one, so I might see myself in the world with more clarity. Self-portrait in a refraction. It is 9:51 p.m. it is, important to mark time when it flows widdershins. It feels like you haven't eaten dinner yet. You have some dumplings missing, soy sauce on a plate. Below your gaze, fixed in clear glass, you are baked and recording your second dream of the latent eve, born of hope, pondering how recently it has been hard to find silence. The microwave beeped so long ago. Beep, beep, beep. You have been too tired to listen or close your eyes. In fact, now the only sound in the apartment is your voice, visible in the depths of the window, blood pulsing in your ears, a memory deep in the stained glass night of confetti all around, and all around light. That was a good one because of confetti. Keep the theme going. I spent my summer going down to the beach and observing the tide, inviting it to borrow my language to express itself. That's a reference to my Poetry Postcard Fest project from a few years back. The tide sings a beautiful song. I don't know if I should translate it, but if I did, the title would be Pointing at the Morning Moon. And now it seems wherever I go, I can see myself there. On the beach, wildfire smoke encroaching over the Salish Sea, hiding the mountains that usually mark the root and throat chakras of Cascadia. And between the two mirrors of my college dorm bathroom, my ancestors hanging like fruit along the infinite branches of the reflected light that punches through weed smoke in columns, through me in those same columns, revealing the energy pooling beneath my skin. Self-portrait in a cleansing ritual. It is cold out here. In the February evening breeze, my mouth tastes like ash and kelp. On the way to pick up takeout, Bang Bar special rice noodles and the half a chocolate truffle I just ate and wished on the street lights, flickered flesh eyelid, the edible could clear my mind. Or at least the sky, like it used to lift, this little fire at the end of the joint. Fog lays thick over Cascadian firs, spruce and pine in winter, so common hair and bleeding heart might hang in glow. You once taught me to hug with a sound before leaving a loved one. A goodbye hug should not just be a hug, but a combustion. The release of some energy needed to create something new. I always sign off that way when I write to you. Doesn't matter how much of the letter you can understand if I end it with that fragment of communication, which is a comfort to me. I live surrounded by so much noise, it makes it difficult to be heard and to hear. Grandpa G, as the moon wanes toward harvest, I am saying goodbye to the last tendrils of my adolescence. To celebrate the transition of seasons, I went to a concert with Savannah and some friends. The venue is a beautiful natural amphitheater nestled in a bend in Chihuahua. We arrived 3 hours early for the concert to set up camp and cook some dinner, but the line was so long we only just made it in time for the music. Anyone very far behind us waited for 6 or 7 hours and missed the concert. I don't know how on the internet you guys are. I was ahead of my time with that one. The reason the lines were so bad is because security had to be tightened due to a shooting at the campground earlier this summer, in which 2 queer women were killed by an army officer on a bad trip when they tried to stop him waving his gun at his partner. As we left the concert, a drunken asshole of a teenager called me, quietly, a faggot. Their voice dropped noticeably from their blustering and shouting a moment earlier when they had been yelling at us that we wouldn't dare hit a minor, their response to my friend asking not to be repeatedly poked without consent. They got a coy look in their eye, like a toddler who knows they are being naughty, but goes through with it anyway. I remembered all the times in elementary school when my hair had been long because it felt right, but I didn't know why or didn't know that it feeling right was all I needed, and the other kids teased me, boyish, telling me I looked like a girl, especially in the pool with my hair wet or from farther away, as if it were an insult, the only other option, the worst option, like in my favorite movie, a way to play ball poorly. That insult was yelled with confidence the drunk teen couldn't muster, and as I stepped closer to them, demanding they say the slur louder so the crowd around us could hear, they stumbled away. I know I am a small, beautiful part of a small, beautiful world. Dear Grandpa G, the harvest moon has passed and this 100th season is well underway with gray rain. This past weekend I attended the 7th Cascadia Poetry Festival. And on Erev Shabbat, I stood outside the door of an overflowing Subud chapel. From where I stood, the sound did not well reach me, but the poems did. The stairs were rising, falling like the tide, Alki, and I began to see the hummingbirds around me, flitting between red pine branches. I saw an ugly thing too. Myself and my brother in a poem I didn't want us to be in. On the street behind me, a car screeched like a bat as it wrapped around the light pole, which flickered. The driver's spirit rose from the car, patting its pockets like they had left something behind. They looked a bit like me. Hazel eyes brightened green with a film of tears. I woke up and 5 more Lashutsi languages had died. It was my fault because they passed in a forest fire I started by burning down a cruise ship in Elliott Bay. That is how far an ember can travel on the wind, the potential energy of a hallucination. When the poems were done and I entered the chamber, you were there. In every gray hair and wire rim, in every pot belly, and just above and behind my head, in a place that extended my shadow the barest width. Self-portrait as a bend in the river. The trip ended with a mother-daughter dance as the sun dipped behind the gorge, behind the bend in the river. Behind the music and the colors came out between the stars, and all the women in the song smiled the way they do, smiles. You must listen, for you cannot see them. I wept, for the daughter's smile is, the echo of the mother's smile is, the echo of the bend in the river. When I have told you of the news, it has been because it struck some chord within me, because I felt it was something you needed to know, and because the first step to being an active citizen is being aware of what is happening around you. Though I feel quite a struggle with how much I can do, with what it means to be young enough to facilitate change right now, while the storms grow bigger and more frequent and the forest fires burn hotter, while diseases evolve faster and in the climbing global temperatures more and more people are killing each other more and more. This is a current self-portrait of me, a bit high, eating mac and cheese and drinking seltzer water. Sad because the Orioles just got knocked out of the playoffs badly. And because people I love have been called to war. And people who are loved by people I love have been called to war. Because on Friday, before my poetic visions, on the anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, the land of milk and honey was caught by surprise in an attack that spanned half the country, as they draw it now. It is Tuesday now, and well over 1,000 people have been killed on all sides. All sides because words like both have led to this over and over again. These words breed ignorance, and never faster than on this new invention, social mierda. They might redraw the map tomorrow. The world is getting smaller and hotter, and I fear that means there will be more and more war. Now it is further on still, and I have to ask, when does protection turn into retaliation? When does retaliation turn into aggression? It has been many Tuesdays now, and the country that was established so our people might never endure another genocide has been swallowed by the luxury trap, triggered by Buddy's BB and 45, at the whim of the billionaire oligarchs of our world, themselves always chasing another zero before the decimal point. Back to the self-portrait. You are seeing the back of my head, my long wavy curls tied into a low disheveled bun. The TV is in the background, a bit blurry to you. It looks like the animated character on the screen is kicking fire out of their feet, almost out of the screen. A hug with a sound. CBC. Thank you.
Let's hear it one more time for all of the Carbonation Press readers. Real quick before we transition, I just want to say thank you all. The books from Carbonation that are available are in the back if you'd like to get one. And this event every year to me is a miracle. It's miraculous that it happens. And it happens because you're all here and everyone is doing amazing things and being amazing. So thank you. I will certainly grieve it as I drive back to Spokane, but I appreciate the opportunity, and I know all of the Carbonation authors appreciated reading together today too, so thank you.